Hello, Culture Matters podcast. I'm excited to introduce you to our guest. Before I do that, here's a quote just for this episode. Bedhead is the title of this chapter because I believe this is where we close. We are close to our souls, our hearts and mind, and our spiritual vision. The release of the day found in our beds is where our souls take flight, where we heal our brokenness, and where we retreat to safety. To this day, if I'm sad, hurting, or sick, I retreat to my bed to rest, to contemplate, and to escape. Bed, place where the vision of my most significant accomplishments were born. Christine Beckwith. Today, returning to the Culture Matters podcast is Christine Beckwith, founder of 2020 Vision for Success Coaching, mentor to many, friend of the Culture Matters podcast. Today, we're talking about Bedhead, Chapter 7 of Finding Honor, the journey to the truth. I was going to say your journey to the truth, which I believe is also accurate. And thanks for coming back. I want your thoughts on that.
Thank you.
That one stuck out to me, which is why I read it.
Yeah. When you write a book about the most significant pivotal places in your life, your dark spots, your overcoming, your prevailing, which is what this book is about. And I gave that a lot of thought. I realized, and I tried to make this not sound too dark because I'm a dark person. I've come to realize I'm a deep person. That I have spent a significant amount of time laying around in bed. And this is the plight of people that, have heavy mental stuff. And so I think laying there naturally gave me the calm, if you will, to really get to places. My thinking is like a rabbit hole, my self-thinking. And I know everybody probably gets into thought, and sometimes they got to catch themselves to pull themselves out of spiraling thinking and stuff like that. Mine has a little bit of a different effect. For instance, I've never been a big fan of smoking weed, so this is going to be really good for this podcast. One of the reasons why is because if I smoke a joint, I'm going to be cleaning the blinds of my house with a Q-tip. That's number one. Or debating, what's living on Uranus with somebody. And so it just expands my thinking so broadly that it took me a long time, probably like all of my college years and into my 20s, to go, why isn't anyone else, thinking the way that I am right now? Like, you'd share a joint with 8 people when you were 21 and everybody else was rolling around laughing and I'm sitting there like looking up at the stars going, man, I wonder how far away that star is. And so I'm trying to make something dark funny right now. The same effect kind of happened when I would go to bed without the randomness of like, really outlier thinking. I would think about my life. And in thinking about my life, I would start to dissect parts and pieces of it. And then I'd go to the next level of thinking and the next level of thinking. And I swear to you, my greatest successes in life came from my ability to not just see the vision of where I wanted to go, but to see all the parts that were needed to make it come to life. My mind is so imaginative that it'll take me down the what if roads on its own and make me figure out what obstacles I could face, and then make me figure the solutions out to what those would be if I do. And so all things considered, I'm pretty thorough when it comes to allowing my thought to kind of guide me to success. But I've had epiphanies laying there. I've had real breakthroughs.
What was the most recent?
Oh, that's a great question. I think this last year was debilitating with my sister's death for me. And I felt anchored by this invisible weight. People talk about grief. I don't think I'm exceptional. I just think I have been grieving. I didn't know what grief meant, even though I had grief counselors here for people that grieved. And I understood from the surface level that people needed professional help when they got into losing jobs and losing marriages and losing family members to death. I knew that much, but I still did not understand it. Like, you can't, I respect grief until you have had the 100-pound weights on your legs, you know, and you realize its power. And so I think my biggest epiphany in the last year in bed, just was that I needed to save myself. You know, I needed to fight. I needed to get up and fight. I needed to fight for my health, and I needed to fight for my business. And I just needed to get it moving.
Wow. Some people listening to this will be thinking, no way. Look at everything that Christine has created and what she does and who she is for people. She doesn't have to fight. She can't have to be struggling with what I am right now. What do you say to that person?
It just hit me the other day that I'm walking around thinking I'm doing incredible things, and that maybe don't know, or that nobody is walking around having read all my books. But maybe they don't know how difficult it is for people. My next book that's coming out is going to be really great for people that suffer with ADHD and OCD. I have just learned this last year how bad my OCD is. I've learned that my OCD will drive me crazy. Like, I don't have, bumper alleys up to not end up in the gutters of my OCD, if you will. I compare our ability to regulate ourselves as like a bowling alley. If you have some sort of awareness, you have these bumpers up and you won't end up in the gutter, because you're aware, you have these boundaries, you have these protections that you've created. I'm still figuring myself out, but I've discovered that if something I expect to be done isn't done, I will drive myself crazy with it truly is a powerful thing. So my next book that's coming out is going to talk about putting the order in the disorder. Okay. I think that's going to end up being my tagline, actually. And I'm going to be seeking some powerful interviews with people that I have coached and consulted with or managed or led or just walk with. So, I mean, you asked me a question, and I don't know that I've answered it. The answer is, yesterday I had a person come up and say, I read all your books, somebody I work with at Annie Mac, a really unsuspecting fan. A guy, I don't want to name him, but I'll describe him, a Hispanic guy who has incredible success out of Arizona, one of the top originators in the country, super funny guy, super tough guy. And just out of the blue, he came up and he's like, I read all your books. It's like, since I've been gone. And I managed him indirectly when I was there. I said, really? And he's like, yep. And so I said, what do you think? And he said, it's a miracle you're alive. And I said, and it was embarrassing a little to me, because there I was at a work event, coming back, representing my company. And I forget how intimate I've been in my writings, that anybody could pick them up and get inside my head in a way that I'm not marching around with fucking neon signs saying whatever. But what he said to me made me realize that I really am a person that's tortured. I'm a person that's dark. His words were, your relationship with your feelings and the depth that you go into with other human beings and what you give of yourself is depleting. And I've never had anyone describe that to me. He said, I think you're somewhat tortured by it. He said, because you understand that you feel everything at a great level, at a deep level. He goes, and I totally get that from you. He goes, I see these people reacting to you coming here and coming up to you and hugging you. He goes, not just hugs. He goes, like deep, like they miss you. He goes, and they miss you. He goes, because you gave them something. Yep. Like I posted yesterday, this woman came up to me with her journal yesterday from 2017. I wrote her a note with a journal the first week she became a loan officer. She's 6 years down the road. She's become very successful. And she wanted to show me that she's still carrying the journal. And she carries it to places like these conventions where she wants to learn her greatest lessons. And she stood there waiting for me to talk to me in line to show me that she was still carrying this journal. You hope you make an impact on people. But I think about that, and that's the answer, is that I don't think that the world has known what showing up means for a person that struggles. I always think of Robin Williams.
What is it?
Because, well, it's just that the world was shocked. And I was not shocked. I was saddened, and I was, obviously felt horrible about it. But I was listening during his life. It was no secret this man, and I don't want to act like I'm depressed and like when I hang up from this podcast, I'm going to go lay down in bed. That's not my life either. I have the chemical makeup to be somebody that is fighting to stay on my feet. And because of that, there's a uber level of empathy and sympathy. When you take all of that and you try to apply it to running successful businesses, it becomes extremely difficult. People like me don't usually run successful businesses because they can't control, their feelings. And so I feel like I'm a man of the people in the sense of showing other people that struggle with dysfunctions that you can have unlinear success through unlinear work days, through mastering techniques that allow you to be high functioning. And that's what my next book's going to be about. I'm super excited to write this book. I'm writing this book as we speak right now, as I'm traveling.
This is amazing.
It's really exciting.
I can't wait to read it.
Thank you.
There's very few literature on that topic, and there's not enough, frankly. There's
not from the patient perspective. The books that are written are from the doctor perspective. And since I'm not a doctor, I would have doctors come out and denounce such a writing to be, professional. That's not my play. My play is like an in the trenches person that's lived with and lived around hugely successful people, so that we can put one in the bucket for the optimism that's necessary, because all that there is about these diseases are medical books that talk, that support big pharma.
Are you going to interview other entrepreneurs that have really successful that also have like ADHD?
I am.
I just think I had someone just yesterday on the show I interviewed that mentioned that they that's something they deeply, he said it right on the show. Jeff Silva said it right on episode 130, and then we'll have another one come out. He said his hyper, attention deficit sometimes can be a huge blessing, and other times, and this is someone that has carried a team 125 million a year to 150 million a year for years. Someone that's always liked me. I like him. Started my career around him. So it's interesting. Like, that's somebody that I could just think off the top of my head that, you're going to go out and interview these people.
Yeah, for me, it's literally, I believe that I understand that ADHD, ADD, OCD, and even bipolarism without other effects, because bipolarism is complicated and there's many different types of it, I believe are the genius level thinkers, most of them. It appears to me, by my pool of experience with hundreds of people like this, that they're all high thinkers. The name of my book is High, just HIGH. That's
wow.
it.
That's cool.
And I know it's going to catch everyone's attention because they're going to think I'm writing about drugs or something, and I'm not. Although I will talk about drugs, because drugs play a role.
Success is a drug, baby.
Yeah, well, people that are high thinkers often resort to self-medication to slow their brains down because it's exhausting for them to be awake. quite frankly.
Yeah.
And I understand that because I am now a sober person who has loved drugs in my lifetime. And, this is just a book that's going to help a lot of people. I have lived in the sales world from my seat. I'm not walking around thinking that the world's crazy and everybody's effed up. I just believe that people that seek entrepreneurship, by and large, there is a lot of us that have these different types of illnesses because, quite frankly, you got to be a little bit crazy to be an entrepreneur. You also have to typically you're driven to the freedom of it because you aren't a person that can do well in a punch the clock environment. In fact, you may have tried to do that in your early jobs in your young life and failed miserably and had to figure out that you're not a loser because you can't get up in the morning or you have a hard time keeping a schedule. And so you're going to see, the people that some of the wealthiest people that I'm going to interview, and I'm going to try to get some celebrities too. I've started to research who I'm going to go for it in trying to get some celebrity interviews, some real celebrities, if I can, just like with, and thanks to you and Jenna helping, with Les Brown, making the introduction and having him profoundly change my life by writing in the last book. I would just like to get some big names. I will have some people in the industry that I also do that I know have incredible success because I know that'll bring weight to this discussion. But I just think they're high thinkers, and that's essentially what I'm saying in the opening of the book.
Why do you think the reviews have been so positive for this chapter? So much. There's so much review around it, so much talk.
Yeah, so people can relate to this chapter. So many people mention this chapter on Amazon reviews, and they say it's their favorite chapter. And I think I share a lot of. Everybody says this is the intersection in the book where they're waiting for the intimate details of my personal story to begin to come out. Like I'm setting the book up as I'm explaining philosophically the thinking. And it climbs. Everybody says the book climbs, like the climax of the book is there, that they can't set it down. They know I'm about to start to share some personal stuff. And not that they want to get to know me, but the author is alluding to the fact that, I'm on a journey and this is how the journey began and this is where the journey's taking me. And now they want to know why I needed to save myself. And so Bedhead begins to tell the intimate details of some of the hardest things I've gone through, because it brings me back and it brings the reader to the place where I find myself at the edge of my life's cliff, contemplating living. And I share that. And that is hard because people look at people that have attempted suicide or people that have been at those places as crazy. If that's what people end up thinking when they're done with reading my book, I can live with it. Obviously, I wrote a book about it, but I think it's very freeing for me. And I think if I died tomorrow in a car accident and people said she helped people and I didn't help all people that I could save because of things that I had done to save myself, I would not have been the ultimate teacher. Like the ultimate teacher is going to take every lesson. I know people all around me that are so afraid to look in the mirror at themselves. They're so obviously unself-aware, and they are so obviously out of touch. And I can see their currency is power and money and popularity. And I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't say I drank from those wells in my life. I did. And I'm not one of those, ex-smokers that hate smokers or whatever. I mean, I kind of am. But I know what I'm saying right now. I see young people that are 10 years younger than me following these leaders and banking around. I see it at, I go to conventions and I see these powerful leaders walking, and behind them, there's 5 people walking around. Some of them are holding cameras, taking pictures of them. They know they're in the inner circle. They can't wait to sit at the table and eat the steak dinner. and they can't say enough about the person that's writing their paycheck. And while that's all good, you're living that guy's life. What's going on with you? Like, what's going on in your life? Like, I understand that's a means to an end when we need a job. Personally, I don't want to get paid like a whore because I'm some other guy's bitch, you know, and that's a pretty large statement. I've never wanted to be the guy that I'm uncomfortable with people following me, and you don't have to pay me to follow me or be my friend. I try to make sure that every single day I'm giving things back that don't cost money. And it's funny because Matt Ishbia put that up on his presentation, and he just said, do things without money in mind. Do things because you can do things, and stop making money the core of your panic, and like everything will calm down, and you'll realign your businesses the way you are. I thought it was really good advice from somebody that's probably losing his shirt right now in this business. And I do operate that way. Like I shouldn't, because I probably lose money thinking that way. But anyways, I'm digressing. I hate to see people give all of their best to elevate other people. Like there's somebody that's giving too much of themselves to some other hero in their life. They are not giving us what God needs them to give, like, or what the universe needs them to give. Unspiritually, I'll say all of us could change the world, each of us contributing our gifts. And so many people are lost. So many people don't know how to tap into what their gifts are. So many people don't even know what their gift is. And here's the problem with society is they're putting it all on these currencies that other people tell you are worthy: awards, money, recognition. If you get here, I'll give you this. We do it in our relationships. We barter for things in our marriages, and anyways, I find myself on this trip where I feel sorry for myself because I'm an old lady doing 2 weeks on the road. And I'm having to constantly catch myself on this trip, not victimizing myself and feeling sorry for myself because I'm away from home. So I'm making sacrifices right now. I'm not with my son. I'm not with my dogs. I did get to see my life partner, Corey, because he was at this last event for 4 days, which is a nice treat in the middle of this 14-day thing. When he left last night, I cried. And I know I cried because I felt lonely, and I'm still going on. It's like walking on a road and you're walking towards something. And for me, I'm out here trying to find business for my business. And people are depending on me doing this. And I don't think it's noble, and I don't think it's grand. I think it's necessary. But I stopped myself from feeling like sad about it, because I'm like, I should feel happy. I have this beautiful life I've built, this beautiful business I've built. I'm lucky. My sister isn't here. I'm here. Like, go kick ass, Christine, is what I said to myself. And I recognized in that moment, laying in bed, by the way, that I was my self-talk was different. So my bedhead, my conscious awareness is what bedhead means, has changed. Like, I can lift myself up. I can now save myself. That's what Finding Honor, the Journey of the Truth is about, the whole book. Can you save yourself? Do you understand what the currency of your life is? You will only know when you reach true happiness. That's what the back of the book says. You will only know when you reach true happiness, because happiness can only come when you understand. Can I read you something?
Yeah.
So in the opening of my new book, it says, here's to the degenerates who will never get mentioned in any other book dedication in our lifetime, who brilliantly crushed the sales statistics, ran the boards to the top of the company chain, who by all statistical means should not have won a thing, and yet in a totally corrupt, non-linear success path, absolutely turned the sales industry upside down. Throw out your textbooks. Everything you think you know about hiring top sales guys is a farce. In between the perfect resumes and the polished posturing lie a world of sales giants who will rock your corporate world. And they weren't, or they aren't, wearing iron suits and lapel tissues. No, these guys are the true hoodlums of sales, coming for the money they've been eluded their whole lives, driven by hunger, with no process or plan, and are soaring through life and crashing, and soaring again and crashing. If you are willing to accept them, they will make you the most money per seat that you can find. I am high on life. You think I am joking. I'm not. Every day I wake with the excitement for what the day will bring. I love the things that give me personal pleasure. The list is probably quite different than you think. I love battling through the coma I first wake up from. I also love the first accelerated moment or minutes I feel when my heart rate begins to absorb the caffeine I'm consuming in the form of a very snobby, freshly ground cup of coffee with a side of 5-hour energy. I love the feeling I get when I'm beginning to fight through my first hard-fought part of the day in the form of exercise. I love the after effects. I have pushed my body to its limits with cardio and weightlifting. I'm drawn to the edge of life, and I love winding out all 5 gears. And it just goes on. And I hope it intrigues the reader to like, it's going to be a fucking good book, dude.